Well, a warm welcome from the European Hydrogen Week here in Brussels, organised by Hydrogen Europe. My name's Keith Maynard from Hydrogen Standard, and I'm standing here with two gentlemen from Axpo. First of all, we have Guy Bühler, who is head of hydrogen at Axpo, and we also have this gentleman to my right, Luka Cuderman, who is one of the hydrogen strategists, I believe was the right title. So a warm welcome to both of you. If you could start, first of all, by explaining a little bit more about who you are as a company. Who are Axpo? What do you do?
Okay, so Axpo is a large energy producer in Switzerland. So we come from the electricity generation, and basically we view hydrogen as one way of expanding our value proposal. So basically that's where we come from. So we think that considering that hydrogen, green hydrogen, is going to be about 70% of the cost is going to be linked to electricity, then being good at procuring electricity, generating electricity, and then making this available for electrolyzer is going to be a good part of the job. And we are active throughout Europe. We have also quite some experience in gas, liquefied natural gas, and so on. So we think that both activity are actually quite close to what we think hydrogen is going to develop to. So that's why Axpo actually decided to enter into the hydrogen world.
Hydrogen space, yeah, okay. So you've obviously been now active in the hydrogen space for a few years. Within that time, what are some of the greatest challenges? I'm going to come to you with this, Luka. What are some of the real challenges that you're trying to solve and overcome in order to move this very exciting industry and technology forward?
At Axpo, we're trying really hard to develop economically feasible projects. And one of the challenges that we have observed, there is just a rather large gap between the hydrogen production costs and between the willingness to pay of the off-takers. And we see mainly two reasons why this is happening. So on the one hand, we have a quite restrictive European regulation coming from RED III as well as the delegated acts. And on the other hand, the hydrogen sector is just still in its rather early stages. So the technology is not yet that mature, it's not yet that reliable. The manufacturing capacities are just in the process of being scaled up. So nevertheless, we are quite optimistic about the future because we see that the hydrogen the suppliers, the electrolyzer manufacturers are really scaling up, and that the quality of the products that we can get in the market is increasing.
Yeah, so it's a really fast-moving industry, and I guess there is a lot of opportunity for people out there. What's next for you within Axpo? What are you planning next? Is there anything exciting on the horizon that we should be looking out for?
Well, I think hydrogen is a long value chain. So I think there is, of course, you can sell pure hydrogen, which is going to be used in fuel cells and other kind of applications. But there's also the whole perspective of making like synthetic fuels out of it, which I think is going to be very important. First of all, because synthetic fuels somehow rely on existing infrastructure, and I think the more we will be able to use existing infrastructure, the cheaper we will make it to the end customer to somehow make use of it. And also it does not change its processes. I think changing a process from, if you are like a burning gas to burning hydrogen, is something different. So you have to change your equipment. If you can somehow go to synthetic fuels, then you can somehow keep on using your equipment, and I think that will somehow make the rollout much smoother and much faster, and probably also more reliable, because then you can really use existing stuff which has been proven. So I think this synthetic fuels is something which is going to come, and on which we are also betting for the future.
So could you spend a little bit of time talking about some of the projects which you really feel stand out at the moment and are really doing great things in the world of Axpo and hydrogen tech?
For sure. So there's our first operational hydrogen production plant in Domat in Switzerland, where we have produced the first Axpo kilograms of green hydrogen back in spring. So that has been a very nice achievement for us. It's a 2.5 megawatt plant close to the Swiss mountains, close to the motorway. And we think it's going to be a very interesting project also for the future. Then we have another project in central Switzerland in the canton of Uri, where we are just starting the construction right now. We expect to go into operation by the end of next year, so by the end of 2025. And then a little bit further down the line, we have the project in Brugg, which is located quite centrally between Zurich, Bern, and Basel. And it's going to be a slightly bigger plant, which we're going to develop in a couple of different stages. And we are just now finalizing the last planning steps.
Yeah, maybe internationally, we have also some other projects. I mean, our strategy is a bit to start with smaller plants, because I think it's if we want to learn, is really to start with smaller units and maybe scale up later on once we'll have understood and maybe also burnt our fingers. So we have like projects in France, which is also linked to mobility, which is also will start construction in the next months. We've got like 2 projects in Italy where we want to supply hydrogen to industrial off-takers in the central part of Italy, as well as in Sicily. We've got projects in Portugal and also in Iceland. Goal there is to produce synthetic fuels, which will then be used well, the goal is to produce actually methanol, synthetic methanol, which then can be used to produce fuels for shipping, or also be used in plastics.
So it's not just hydrogen by the sounds of it, it's synthetic fuels generally. It sounds like you really are throwing a lot of time and effort into looking at how we can build these more green technologies.
Yes, absolutely. I think decarbonizing is not just about hydrogen. I mean, hydrogen is going to be part of it. It has the beauty to be scalable, so you can do a lot of hydrogen in worldwide. But I think some application will somehow rely on fuels. And you also have to, by decarbonizing, for instance, methanol, which today is like made out of natural gas. I mean, all the chemical industry will have to decarbonize too. And if you could produce what they need, then they will be able to do it.
So obviously right now we're in Brussels at one of the many hydrogen events that we have around Europe and the world. What does it do for you as a company, as Axpo, to be here? And what's your kind of aim? What do you get from it? What's exciting about being here at Brussels for you?
We are a Hydrogen Europe member. So this is the flagship event of Hydrogen Europe. And it's always a really nice opportunity to kind of bridge the gap between the policymakers, between the industry, and between the actual operators of these future hydrogen plants. And this is one of the places where these 3 different parties come together. And it's a really good chance that also the policymakers experience where the pains of the industry lie, so that they can take appropriate action.
Thank you. Okay, and I suppose what I'd be really interested in hearing from finally is how do you feel you as Axpo can help people watching with hydrogen? So maybe people are watching and they're wondering who they're going to partner with next. Why should they look to partner with Axpo? Why should they get in touch with you?
I think a lot of project developers come from the renewable electricity space, so they come from PV, they come from wind. And they tend not to understand that those projects in hydrogen are much more complex. There is a lot more of logistics to be put in place. You will also have like more intermittent production. So you have to be good at operating plants. I mean, an electrolyzer is a plant. It's not like a PV which will simply produce power as the sun shines. So you have to do something about it. You have to manage it. Sometimes you will have too much electricity and you will have to sell it on. You have to be able to get rid of extra electricity, maybe on an exchange. So being really able to somehow connect all the points, which is like electricity, hydrogen, bridging those markets, I think is something which is going to be a challenge, which is probably underestimated for the time being still. And I think that's something where Axpo really has its strengths, and we can do so Europe-wide. I think we're one of the few players who really are active throughout Europe. So if one customer would have like different locations, so we can cope of his needs throughout Europe with activity on all the European exchanges. And I think that's something really Axpo can add to the market.
So I'm hearing that you're a bit of a one-stop shop, if you know that phrase. People can come to you and they can get almost a plug-and-play solution where you can help them with every aspect.
I would say nearly so, not totally. I mean, we are not a technology provider today, so we are not supplying electrolyzers, or we are not supplying compressors or so on. We do not see neither our strengths in engineering, for instance. That's typically things which we would outsource also for our own projects. But I think all the energy management, all the management around the electrolyzer is something which I think Axpo would be quite good at.
Which is a very important part to coordinate. And again, something that not necessarily everyone thinks about when they set out into trying to integrate this technology.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's important. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you both very much indeed. Luka, Guy, we really appreciate your time. And of course, we are here at the event now for the next few days, interviewing lots of different people. So we look forward to seeing you at our next interview. And in the meantime, keep looking about all the exciting things happening in hydrogen. This is a brilliant space, and Axpo are doing some wonderful things.